I mean this with all sincerity. If you are at all nervous about some topics, never pick up S by Slavenka Drakulić. Before we talk about S or its other title, As If I Am Not There, if you do see that book, know it's the exact same. I want to contextualize something that I have been reading, which is war. War as a topic never really intrigues me. Most World War II books and World War I deal with the same things, or at least the books that I was predominantly picking up, the ones that do very well, because most people, I feel, have one view of war, which is the one that we know about, the one that we learn about, the one that we understand, and the one that we feel comfortable with. However, what I've come to realise is that there are wars that have happened that I know very little about. Even in World War II, I didn't know much about the gulags until I started reading Solzhenitsyn. Still don't know much about the Cultural Revolution under Mao. I only realised that the forced famine of Ukraine in 1932 to 1933, the Holodomor, even had a name. One war that was brought up quite frequently within 2019 is the Bosnian War. I'll explain why 2019 in particular. This book is set in 1992, 2 years before I was born. Most likely there are people watching this who were alive during the Bosnian War and will happily put their hands up saying, I don't know anything. But in 2019, the people just wanted to point fingers at one man, Peter Hanke, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Hanke is a powerhouse of an author. Again, I haven't read anything by him, but easily he is one of the most influential living writers on the continent. Well, he denies that there was a genocide, and many people, flocks of people on the internet, came to point fingers at Hanke saying, yes, there was a genocide. And I have no doubts that the large majority of people saying that couldn't even tell you what genocide. I don't think people could identify that it's the Srebrenica massacre, where more than 8,000 Bosniak Muslims were slaughtered on the streets. They are stories, and know that this has nothing to do with S. We will come on to the book, I promise you, of women who, if they couldn't keep their babies quiet, their throats were slit. They're stories of Serbian soldiers just shooting Bosniak Muslims for no apparent reason. They are stories where people would rather have committed suicide than be at the hands of the Serbian soldiers. But you could read Wikipedia articles, you can watch documentaries, you can read newspaper journals, and we view this non-fiction as just fact. There's something disassociative with non-fiction, I feel. I've never teared up reading a piece of non-fiction. I've never felt an emotional wrenching when reading the mere facts. There's a saying that war can only be expressed through music and poetry, that there is a deeper emotional level that we have. Maybe we shouldn't be able to experience it, that we can feel even the slither of what it must have been like just to get an ounce of the colossus of war is enough to just make you view the world differently. That is the power of books. That's the power of fiction. You're able to experience something, and if the book is done so well, if the book is done in a manner that makes you feel heavy, a book that with each page is harrowing, it is brutal, you are thrown in a circumstance where, like the character, you just have no idea of what is going on. I can't even talk about this book without it bearing weight on me. I've never experienced a book like S. I thought I had read a book like S. As I got into the book, I thought I might experience some catharsis. It's just gnawed into my bones This book is painfully close and bleak. In the Bosnian War, more than 60,000 Croatian and Muslim women were raped. And we're going to focus on S, our character, who at the moment is in Stockholm. She's given birth, and what should be a joyous moment makes her real. We hear about, in the first 3 pages, how she wants to suffocate the baby. She wants this thing, this cancer, this tumour gone, because S, and note that all the women in the story are just an initial. They're not humans, they don't have names, they don't have titles. They're just deserving of a letter. And no one's going to refer to them. The women are just objects within this book. They're just consequences of war. Contemplating what she's going to do with this child, we move back a year, back in 1992. S lives in a small village. A Serbian soldier comes to the house knocking on her door saying that she needs to come with him now. Not really knowing what to do. Is she going to go back at her job teaching English? Well, how long is she going to go away for? How much should she pack to go? She grabs what she can and goes with the Serbian. All the women who have been picked up don't really know where they're going. There's some speculations, there's some questions that linger, but they don't really know what's about to happen. And they arrive at a gymnasium, which is going to be the stone-walled prison. Some women like S will tell the tale. Some of them will not. The women have barely enough to survive. They literally don't even have a toilet. There is a bowl in the corner that within like the first day is overflowing. There's feces everywhere and they still have to use it. Or they could use the women's room. And there's some talk of what's going on in the women's room. And we spend some time within the women's room. The women's room is a place where you could get some privileges, but you're going to have to be raped for them. And the scenes of rape are I don't even know if I can I don't even know if I can say it. You feel filthy by reading them. You feel defiled. And even after the rape, just having the Serbian soldiers holding S down and pissing in her face, just so she could do something that makes her feel human, is the difficulty of this book. Is that happens very early on, and you know it is just going to move into places and to rooms that somehow just descend. I don't even think I could compare it. I don't even think I could say it gets to its location. You just keep descending. And you think like it possibly couldn't get any worse. And this book just does. Having one of the young 14-year-old, this book just shows you that when people lose hope, how desperate they get. The women realise that their jewellery has been going missing. They don't really know where and one of the women will admit to why she stole the jewellery. And your understanding for why that has happened. There's an encounter with a 14-year-old girl and what she's subjected to. And you just feel numb. You feel as though you can't be shocked anymore. You feel as though you just... You can see that there's no hope for the women. That there's no hope. And then we have the killing rooms where civilians are raped, mutilated, humiliated. The scene of how much blood there is, I still don't think I have truly comprehended the killing room. I can't even imagine the barbarity of it. I can't even imagine the daily violence. I can't even wrap my head around that there are people living today who lived this. I can't, and you completely understand why S, at the end, after she's been lucky enough to be evacuated to Zagreb, if she has been taken now to Stockholm, she's far away from it. You completely understand why she wants no memory of this. That her child is a product of war. It is a product of rape. It is a product of torture. And this son that she has, you understand the misandry that she holds. That she would rather have no happiness in her life than ever have to relive a speck of that year. And then she picks the baby up and she puts it to her breast and it feeds. There's a glimmer of hope that despite that this child has no name, has no country, has no father, has no language, despite the turmoil that thinking about where that child has come from, that it is innocent in all of this. It's not the child's fault what has happened. And the child should not have to be punished. That is hope. But hope sometimes is very short. It's very present. It's very now. Is it truly hopeful? In the back of my copy, there's an interview with Drakulić. So I don't know if every copy of S will have this, but she says, "I am not convinced that this ending is so hopeful. The consequences of accepting a child conceived by rape are grave. The child will have, in a way, a completely false identity, and the mother will be responsible for it. It is an enormous responsibility. Really, what do you tell such a child as he or she is growing up? The truth? Imagine the child's horror. I would say that the end of the novel can be interpreted in several ways. It is certainly not simply optimistic." This book has just latched on to me. I doubt many people would read it. I have to give this a 10 out of 10. It's harrowing to read. It's harrowing to talk about. It's harrowing to recall it. But it is so easy compared to having lived through it.